which is part of NN Bank, and we also have a representative from Ca' Foscari, which will explain also what can be done with the data in the past and what we'll be able to carry out with the new data that is coming from the two pilots of the initiative going forward. So what we will do is we wait for 1 more minute before going through the various slides to allow also participants to dial in. Perfect. So good morning to everyone and welcome to the September Engage for ESG webinar. My name is Mark Angeben. I head the Business Development and Regulatory Affairs at European Data Warehouse. And today we have the pleasure of having 3 speakers focusing really on the taxonomy, the templates, and most importantly, how to extract the data according to the Engage templates and what can be done with the data extracted from the Engage template. So together with me today, we have Martin Breed from Woonnu. He's also really part from the very beginning of the Engage for ESG initiative. He's part of NN Bank, and together also we have Cohen Kopp. He's a project and change manager, part of the management again of NN Bank, and Cohen is let's say the data expert that knows how to extract the data from the internal systems of NN Bank. Last but not least, we have also Michele Costola, who is a researcher at Ca' Foscari University, has been involved not only in Engage for ESG, but also in previous projects, and is an expert in studying the energy performance certificates, the behavior of the borrowers, and extracting meaningful insights in terms of the correlation between the energy efficiency of the buildings and the borrowers. In terms of what we're going to be focusing today in terms of the agenda, I will give a brief overview in terms of the latest version of the Engage templates, version 1.1, that was circulated in August this summer. And then we'll pass over to NN Bank, to Woonnu, really to explain the data extraction process and how they've been using the Engage templates to have standardized common templates for the extraction of the data, particularly related to for new buildings. And then we'll have Michele Costola really looking into the research report that they published this year on the energy efficiency. This is particularly for residential buildings, and the experience, let's say, focusing on 2, let's say, case studies where Michele will focus on. And then I will close the webinar explaining how you can become a test user of the Engage templates in the future. We are about to launch the Engage portal towards the end of November, and also we will focus on some of the upcoming webinars that are scheduled. Actually, next week we have the first webinar also in Dutch, hosted by Hypoport together with NN Bank, where they're gonna do, let's say, a similar presentation, but in Dutch for the Dutch market, which is pretty advanced in the understanding of the EU taxonomy and the compliance with it. But without further ado, let's go and immediately focus on the initiative itself. For the ones that are not familiar with the initiative, this was started a couple of years ago, and now we have delivered one of the most important pillars, which is the templates that was released, as I mentioned, in August. And the templates will enable the assessment of the degree of sustainability for the mortgages and the classification of the investment for certain mortgages as sustainable. This is clearly according to the EU taxonomy. So what we have done, in a sense, we have operationalized the taxonomy in specific reporting templates, thanks also to colleagues and Hypoport, in order to create a template which is reflecting the taxonomy, also taking into consideration the questions and answers from the European Commission in the interpretation of the taxonomy itself, because there are quite a lot of aspects that are not entirely clear. Most importantly, we also, later this year, in November, we launch the Engage portal. And what is the portal? Well, the portal will be the infrastructure collecting information and providing a report in terms of compliance with the EU taxonomy. You can see below an email address where you can send all the information in order to participate and be a pilot. I should also say that on the right hand side of the screen you have a chat, and if you wish you can also raise some questions through the chat, and we will try to answer them either immediately during the webinar or we will contact you afterwards. All these slides anyway will be made available on the Engage website. So in terms of Engage, this is the high-level concept, and we are pretty much, let's say, almost to the end of the initiative, in the sense that, as you remember, last June, we had a similar presentation from Unión de Crédito Inmobiliario for Spain, but now is the time also for Woonnu to show what can be done with the template and how they've been able to extract the data from the cadastral databases in the Netherlands and some other forms. So clearly, all the data, as according to the template, the Engage templates, has to comply with the General Data Protection Regulation, with the taxonomy, and also importantly with the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. So the templates, in other words, they are anonymized, so there is not the full address, but only part of it. And once you have done the data extraction in terms of the numbers and the fields as according to the Engage template, this is uploaded or will be uploaded in the Engage portal to have a specific report that then the bank may decide to make available to borrowers or to investors or to other parties. So they will be able to show that the specific portfolio, securitization or cover bond has a certain number of mortgages that are EU taxonomy compliant. Next. So what is the template structure? Well, we at Engage, we thought that the best way would be to really leverage the current ESMA underlying exposure for residential mortgages, i.e. Annex 2, and also in the future we will release the part on the consumer loans based on the Annex 6. But most importantly, the building block 1 really help for the compliance with the EU taxonomy regulation. This is for the mortgages for the acquisition of clearly new buildings, and also loans for the renovation of buildings themselves. The other part that we're working, and we have a webinar coming up in October, is adding something which is very, very important, for example, related to the green eligibility checker for checking the possibility of having a building where the improvements based on the renovation is more than 30%. The last but not least, the last building block that we will be focusing over the course of the next year is also the part all related to the European Central Bank stress test fields for climate change, such as flooding, heating, etc., that are currently required also as part of the SSM for the various tests that are carried out with the various banks and other financial institutions. So as you can see, the templates are not set in stone, they are evolving, and they will continue evolving based also on the experience and the feedback from Woonnu and NN Bank in terms of the availability and whether the fields that we have came up to as part of the Engage templates are correct and also it's possible from their internal system to extract exactly the data with a certain minimum data quality. Next. So in terms of how you can get a copy of the latest version, the 1.1 of the Engage templates, you basically can go in the website and request the form. You'll have the slide, so you'll have the link to request it formally. We have more than 50 institutions already requesting the templates and looking into that, including also central banks and national competent authorities. Next. Now, what is the version 1.1 different from the previous version, the 1.0 that was released earlier on? So, in terms of the templates, here you can see the structure. And as I was mentioning before, the starting point is the loan by loan templates from ESMA. So the templates are very granular and include some information for both the underlying exposures as well as the collateral. And so you have loan level data in terms of the building as well as the borrower, etc. In terms of then the type of information which is included, that is also covers the part in terms of the assets. So they engage specific new files that exactly follows the nomenclature and the structure of the ESMA templates that are required under the securitization regulation. Plus, also they include some new files and new templates, which is related to the documentation and the structure of the transaction. What is key here is that while the ESMA templates are for securitization, the Engage templates are actually can be used in a flexible manner also for mortgage portfolios and covered bonds as well. So they are much more, they are basically transaction agnostic. Next. Okay, so, and what is the structures of the Engage templates? Well, you can see here that we have been considering the best market practices. We've been actually discussing with a lot of also regulators and standard setters in terms of the templates and how to interpret this and how to visualize the taxonomy. So in practice, what we have looked at is really at the substantial contribution criteria for the economic activity, i.e. 7.7 in terms of the acquisition and ownership of the buildings. And we have translated in this decision tree, the way of the logic of the Engage templates, for example, in terms of the buildings that are built before the 31st of December 2020 or after that. And clearly also the logic follows whether in terms of the application of the construction permit before, again, 31st of December 2020 or after that. Clearly, the other important thing is because construction permit also is not consistently, let's say, interpreted in the same way across jurisdictions. And those are the kind of things where the expertise of an N bank, their experience in the renovation, or the expertise in terms of granting mortgages for the construction for new builds, that clearly helps because this is the nitty-gritty where it's easy also, let's say, to lose time in terms of extracting the exact information, because a construction permit, for example, might be different from building permit or from when the house was built or delivered, etc. So clearly there are a lot of nuances. And also the other important thing is regarding the energy performance certificate, because we know that these are not always available. There is no full coverage in any of the European countries. But again, the Netherlands is the best country because has the highest percentage in Europe of the EPC available. And has actually one of the best public databases also where the information can be found. We will learn more from both Martin and Cohen from this perspective. Next. Then I think the important part here is, as I was mentioning, we are not looking only at the EU taxonomy, but because the EU taxonomy is evolving itself, we are also looking into the questions and answers of the European Commission. The latest version is of December, but we know and we expect also new version being published with some clarifications. And here again, the Energy Efficiency Mortgage Hub Netherlands has been playing a role in order to ask and to clarify some of the aspects, particularly for the renovation of buildings. So I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty because this is all going to be available, so you can read it at your own leisure. Here you have, in terms of the substantial contribution, the way that we have, let's say, created and made sure that there is also a perfect correlation and interrelation between the fields, let's say, of the ESMA template and the Engage template through the various identifiers, both for the borrower, the underlying exposure, for the building, and the building itself. So this is the way that we are, in a sense, making sure that the information regarding the building, the cadastral data, etc., can be connected with the credit data present already in the ESMA templates. Next. And here also, in terms of substantial contribution, you can see also how the calculation is made for the 7.71 in terms of the top 15%, in terms of, for example, the application date for the construction permit, the techniques where we also allow the possibility of perform a 15% studies. So the template is not entirely mechanical, so we have left some possibility to have it, let's say, flexible depending on the results of the study itself or the various lenders, and to have, let's say, alternative methodologies also being allowed. I think we'll learn more from Cohen and from Martin later. Next also is in terms of 7.72. It's the part related to the substantial contribution to climate change mitigation in terms of the Annex 1. This is for both, let's say, the acquisition of and ownership of buildings, but also for the constructions of new buildings. So in terms also of the interpretation. In terms of, again, the same mitigation, here we have spent quite a substantial amount of time and effort in terms of understanding thoroughly what is the application date for the construction permit, in terms of making the assessment as per the Q&A of the European Commission. And also we allowed the possibility to have the NZEB incorporated, let's say, in each of the specific European jurisdictions, consistently with the Q&A of the Commission. So as you can see, this has been a very thorough and very precise exercise in order to make sure that not only the taxonomy, we are complying with the taxonomy, but also with the interpretation of the taxonomy and the latest, let's say, responses from the Commission itself in terms of the nitty-gritty of the type of information that needs to be reported from the lenders in order to have a thorough assessment. Next. Okay, and the other part that we are also looking into is the part on the do not significant harm. And so there is also a section focusing on this part on the engage templates. We also cover minimum safeguards in terms of these fields that are involved. So it's possible also to fill this type of information if you wish to do so. And next, so you see, we continue to evolve. So we have added in the latest version, the one that was issued and circulated in August, the collateral information, 3 new fields to track the transaction ID, the loan ID, and the collateral ID. And also we had made some adjustment in terms of the wording of the fields description. This is also clearly thanks to the pilots, UCI and NN Bank and Woonnu, that have been helping us to, let's say, improve the template itself based on the results that we have received, taking also into consideration that we have built into the template some specific data quality rules that are also telling us whether the data is consistent when submitting the files to the portal. Next. Perfect. Now is the time for both Martin and Cope. So I leave the floor to you and to your experience as a pilot of the Engage templates.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you all for having me here. My name is Martin Breed, and as from 2012, I work at Adam Bank. Around 6 years ago, my colleague and I came up with the idea to launch a mortgage product for consumers who live in a sustainable home or who want to make their homes more energy efficient. In 2019, Woonnu was founded as a 100% subsidiary of Adam Bank, and just recently, Woonnu merged into Adam Bank as the green mortgage label of Adam. Woonnu helps its customers with the journey to make their homes sustainable by providing all the tooling and the right partners to do so. We also introduced a three-dimensional pricing scheme. Not only does the customer get a discount on the mortgage loan when the LTV has dropped under certain levels, but also when the energy label improves. By doing this, the customer not only benefits from lower energy costs, but also get an economic incentive to green up the dwellings they live in. As we provide label discounts, we have all the energy labels of our customers, which of course is a big help by reporting of the green asset ratio. The green asset ratio of Woonnu is 64%. As a green mortgage loan provider, we didn't need to think twice when we were asked to join the Engage consortium. We believe that Engage will help financial institutions like us with attracting green finance, as there is a growing demand from investors to prove what they finance qualifies as green. Next slide, please. When we zoom into the Netherlands, there's still a lot to be done to achieve the Paris Agreement goals and the coming EPBD4 rules. Out of the 8.1 million homes in the Netherlands, approximately 60% have a valid energy label, and approximately 34.5% have an energy label A. When we look at the data, of course, the EU taxonomy says we need a lot of data. My colleague Koen will tell you more about it in a moment. Luckily, a lot of data is available in the Netherlands. We have a centralized database operated by the government in which all the EPC labels are registered. This database is publicly available, and financial institutions can get the data to compare it with their own portfolios. Furthermore, a climate effect atlas has been created in the Netherlands, commissioned by the Dutch government. The atlas is free to use and provides an overview of the possible effects of climate change in the Netherlands. In the atlas, you can see different maps for 5 climate themes: waterlogging, drought, heat, flooding, and water quality. And the climate effect atlas plays an important role for determining the compliance with the do not significant harm criteria of the EU taxonomy. On top of that, Woonnu was one of the initiators of the Energy Efficient Mortgage Hub in the Netherlands. In this hub, almost all Dutch mortgage loan providers are represented, as well as other companies related to the mortgage loan providing business and some investors. Within the hub, a thorough analysis of the relevant part of the EU taxonomy is done, and where needed, questions were asked to the Commission for further explanation. A good part of the analysis was how the rules as set in the EU taxonomy should be interpreted for the Dutch market, taking into account the data which is commonly available in the market and the mortgage loan providers. This has resulted in a Dutch energy efficient mortgage framework, in which the interpretation of the Dutch market is written down. For the GAR reporting, the framework is on a comply or explain basis. Next slide, please. Looking at the available data, the efficient way the Dutch mortgage market is organized, and the Dutch energy efficient mortgage framework, Netherlands is well positioned to pave the way for other jurisdictions in Europe. Within Engage project, amongst others, we help with the development of the template. For this, we bring to the table our knowledge as Dutch mortgage loan provider and the learnings of our participation in the EMNL hub. Recently, we have started with the user pilot and have filled in the template with representative mortgage loan portfolio of NN Bank to see what we encountered and whether the outcome is what we expect. Within the Engage project, we emphasized the importance to have a one-size-fits-all solution, meaning that the Engage report not only can be used for calculating a CAR of our portfolio, but also should have added value for our investors, rating agencies, reporting, both internal and external, and that it can be used for audit purposes. In this context, we want to enable our investors to see how green their mortgage portfolio is, including the opportunity to see on a loan-by-loan basis why an individual loan or underlying exposure complies or not complies with the EU taxonomy. And for example, with regard to in and external auditors, that they can use the report and the template for sample testing. I want to add that the Engage template as of now is very much suited for the Dutch data availability. But I believe the way it has been designed is also very useful for many other jurisdictions. Therefore, I think that the template in itself already serves as a very practical ingredient list for all the additional data that is needed for ESG. One could say that having transparency around ESG in terms of energy efficient data for our portfolios is also a form of good governance. In particular, since we see that the EU taxonomy really is the cornerstone of many forthcoming regulations in the coming years. Having a solid basis in terms of ESG data is very important. Therefore, Woonnu is proud to be a partner of the Engage project. And I will now give the floor to my colleague Koen Kop, who will further elaborate on the way we have filled in the Engage template.
Thank you, Martijn. My name is Koen Kop. I'm working within the NN Bank mortgage department in the data management team, and we're responsible for all the reporting data. As an NN Bank, we service for 16 billion of Dutch mortgages for different NN group entities and external investors. And as most of our colleagues, we also reported on our EU taxonomy alignment in 2023, and that means that most of the template data we needed was already available. That was also applicable for our for the data governance file. The most of our the required policies are in place within a group. And if we look at the data, the majority of the data is coming from the public sources Martijn already mentioned. We have like the energy certificate data in EP Online. So all the data around energy performance is available there. And we also have the National Building Administration called BAG, where all the details of a building are registered. You must think like building year, building permit data, state of the building, square meters, all kind of details. These public sources are also considered as a truth by our auditors, so it's so we don't have a discussion about the data quality with those parties. And further, also Martijn mentioned, we also use public climate maps to see the climate risk our buildings are exposed to. We use for the climate, mainly for the climate adaptation, do not significant harm criteria. Next slide, please. Next, sorry, yeah. Okay, but so what were our main challenges? The biggest challenge was to connect these public sources to our own mortgage administration. We had to do that based on the address data. We were facing some issues to that. One of the issues was that new built homes they don't have a postal code initially. The second problem was we have a difference in the notation of addresses. You have to say like 7% of our portfolio has a house number addition, and this has all kind of different notation issues. Further, not all the data was on a one-on-one relation. In our mortgage administration, we sometimes have 2 billion units as one collateral administrated. And of course, what Martijn mentioned, only 60% of the building has a valid energy certificate. Now we did some improvements last year. So like we for the new built homes, we try to find out address at an early stage. Most of the time it's quite soon available, but in the former process it was only added at the late stage in the mortgage process. We also improved our house number administration, and in the near future we want even to add the unique Bach ID in a mortgage administration, so we can have a one-on-one relation. And we did some pilots to engage the customers to apply for an official energy certificate, but that's still very hard because it costs you a lot of money, or it's very hard to engage customers on that. Next slide, please. Now, going into the template, we see that like the energy performance data in the template is mainly filled from the EP Online database. Like 13% of our total portfolio has a new energy certificate, and that means that almost all the fields have a value. And like 40% has an older energy certificate, and that misses some data, like the primary energy demand. That's one of the things that has been added later on. If we don't have information in the EP Online database, we use the provisional label database. That is the old energy performance database, and 40% of the buildings have an energy performance certificate in the database. And if there is no certificate at all, we use the building year to estimate the energy label. So it's what you see, like 79% of the data is coming from external databases. Next slide, please. The data in the template relating to the building are coming like for 89% of Bach. That should be 100% because every building in the Netherlands is registered in the Bach. But due to the issues with connecting to the database, we still have 2% that is not matched. And for the climate risk data, we can match like 99% of the data. Next slide. So this was in short that for the Dutch market, it's quite easy to get the necessary data. So it's more like a mapping exercise to use the engage templates. What we see as the main benefits. It enables our investors to report on the GAR, the green asset ratio, and create insights how this evolves. Also gives investors detailed insights on how the GAR is created, so they can also use that information for their auditing parties. It did help us to check the consistency of the data, because you also see that when you combine all the data that you see, you can see some inconsistencies and solve these. And one of this kind of benefits, also a challenge. What we see, if you expand the template with a few extra data fields, you could also serve other requirements, like the emission requirements from the CSRD, and that would also help us to then we move to the challenge that also help us to report on that data to our investors. So what are the other challenges is now we have to further improve the matching of our portfolio with the public data source. When we're going to go to the 100% match. What you earlier mentioned, the percentage of buildings with a valid energy performance certificate must increase also to 100%, but we also a bit called the government has an important role to engage that also, and last was related to the preferred extension of the template for the emission data. So we conclude. So the engage template helps us to better understand the limitation in our data and where to prove this, and it enables our investor in their ESG reporting to create the necessary and detailed insights in the ESG data. So, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cohen. Actually, I have a quick question for you because clearly you practically have been working on the template, on the, understanding the template. It takes quite a while. It's not something that is immediate. But maybe can I ask you, have you done all in one extraction, or did you need to do 2 or 3 extraction, revise the data, receive the feedback in terms of the data quality? So have you made some adjustments? So have you done it all in one go, or did you need to do some more adjustments, or you're still working on the data to continue improving it?
Yeah, we had to do some adjustments. As mentioned, we saw some inconsistency filling in the template. So it was not just one way. We had to do some improvements during the process, but they were very good to do this. Yeah.
And in terms of how many in your sample, how big is your sample now?
The sample we use is about 20,000 loans, but we also looked at the total portfolio because we have all the data available for our like 250,000 loans. But for using the template specifically, we use a subset of 20,000 loans.
So potentially in the future, you can clearly enlarge quite substantially the mortgages that you can submit to check with engaged templates once you're willing to do that type of extraction.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. No, that's great because clearly this is not let's say a one-off exercise. This is an iterative process. That's exactly the same experience also that we have had with UCI in Spain and Portugal, where the information clearly and what we expect is also the file size to grow substantially. Clearly, NN Bank has a huge mortgage book in the Netherlands, so we expect also the file sizes that will be, let's say, uploaded in the Engage portal to continue grow. Also in the future, including the part on the renovation. But over to you now, Michele, in terms of what can you tell us in terms of the data that you have had access to and what you could potentially do in the future?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marco, and everybody for having me here. So before to discuss this application, I would like to stress that this data, this type of data sets are very important as they could be added to the usual pricing models. For instance, was talking about mortgages. If we look to residential mortgages, one of the main exercise that you can also find in the academic literature is try to see if energy efficiency could be added to the set of predictors of probability of default of this type of mortgages. So in the previous projects, what we have done was to use the usual determinants of the probability of default of the mortgages of this type of residential buildings. And what we have found, according also to other studies, is that if a building is high energy efficient, the probability of default is mitigated. And the main message, the driver, is that usually you have lower utility cost, and clearly these reduce the financial strain of the owners, and therefore it decreases the likelihood of default. So with this type of data as you have presented today, what we can do is improve this type of analysis, since the granularity of these templates allows for other type of more specific research hypotheses. What I would like to present today is another type of application that you can have with energy performance certificates, and specifically when you try to use these EPC data to see if there is a way to predict the potential energy efficiency that you can reach. So this is why the title is called Learning from Expert, because what we want to do is to extract not only the information of the building, but also what the technicians have assessed during the process, so what can be improved. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the usual disclaimer. Okay, thank you very much. So I will go short here. You know that the building sector is responsible of more than 40% of energy consumption, the 33% of CO2. Clearly, if we are in a transition, greenhouse gas emissions are one of the main aspects that could put at risk this transition. So the aim is to see if we are able to obtain, as we have experienced, a lower energy consumption that could also have an impact on financial risk management, as I just said. Next slide, please. So what I want to discuss about this study is that we use the energy performance certificate, as I said, in order to forecast the potential energy efficiency increase. So we have two perspectives in this type of study. The first one is to forecast this energy efficiency according to the type of building, but also to leverage on machine learning methodologies that allows us to model this type of data with usual linear models, but also with nonlinear relationship. We will see that the nonlinear relationship are the ones that allows us to predict this type of improvement. Next slide, please. And why we call leverage on expert opinion? Because what we would like to do is to consider the usual information. So to predict this type of energy efficiency increase this information is coming from EPC, because as we will see in a few slides, if you analyze this type of EPC data, you see that you have the classic assessment, but that also you have some suggestions, some technical suggestions that they represent an estimate of the potential energy efficiency that you can reach. So we will identify this type of determinants, and we want to analyze if such relationship are linear or non-linear. And then also we want to test by using this type of machine learning technology if we could also design some targeted green policies in order to improve energy efficiency. And last but not least, of course, we need to evaluate this type of performance about these policies. Next, please. So you know that EPC are the main tool that we can use to measure energy performances in buildings. And as I said before, this type of document, you have the usual structural characteristics of the buildings, then you have your current energy efficiency level, then you have the recommendation, as I said, and then through this recommendation, you have also an estimate about the potential energy efficiency that you can have. So this is the set of information that we will use to train machine learning models in order to check the forecastability, I would say, of the potential energy efficiency that you can reach. Next, please. And I will not spend so much words here, but as to tell you that clearly we need to identify a target variable that we call a measure of energy efficiency. And as you can see here, this is a logistic transformation of by using two types of information. The first one is the current level of energy efficiency, and the second one is EEPOT, which means the energy efficient, the potential energy efficient that you can reach. So this is our target variable. So the higher is the improvement that you can have, the lower is this indicator, it means that you are close to your potential with your current level. Next, please. And this is quite an interesting picture because, as you will see in the results, we are considering two different areas in order to see the robustness of this methodology. And the first one is in Lombardy, in Italy, northwest of Italy. And the second one is a specific area of the UK, in London. And in this case, what you can see is the case of Lombardy. And you see that on the x-axis, we have the current level of energy efficiency, while on the y-axis, we have the potential level of energy efficiency. And you see that somehow you have a bound on the picture that is similar, is like a slope. And this is the technology constraint bound. What does it mean? That if you are in a given type of house that is from a given year, let's assume they are an house from the 70s, you have a technological constraint on the improvement that you can do with respect to a new building, of course, because your maximum potential energy level is lower than the one coming from a new building. And this can be visualized with this type of picture. Next, please. And this is our indicator and the relationship within the same region. And as you can see, this is the type of information that we are using as our target variable. Specifically, if you look to the right panel, you have on the x-axis the energy efficiency, the current level, and then our indicator that is measuring the potential performance that you can reach. Next one, please. Just to give you an idea, this is the current level of energy efficiency in Lombardy. As you expect, the scale is the greener the better. So the greener the energy efficient is high. And we have also the same for the UK. Next slide, please. And as you can see here, we have almost a similar situation, apart from some area that are, the color is red, which means that they are less efficient. So this is the current situation. What you can do is to use this type of information to predict what you can reach. As you can see here, it's interesting. Why? Because you can do two types of analysis here. You can focus on micro level, so on the single building, and try to use the information to predict how I can improve my current level of energy efficiency to reach the potential one, and what are the main determinants. We call it feature importance, and we will see in a few slides. But also you can do, as we will do as our final analysis, a macro analysis, scenarios analysis. So you can try to provide some strategies, to simulate some strategies, and you can measure what are the best strategies that reach the maximum level of potential improvement in energy efficient terms. Next, please. And here I will be a little bit technical, just to illustrate the type of models or machine learning models that we have implemented in this type of analysis. So we will start with the linear model. So we will assume a linear relationship between the features, the characteristics of the buildings, the technical characteristics, and our target variable that measure the potential improvement. And we will use the classical lasso ridge elastic net. And then we will use nonlinear models, and this is quite interesting because nonlinear models assume that this type of relationship could be, of course, nonlinear. So we could have an improvement from a type of improvement for a certain range, and then another type of improvement above a certain range. And in this case, what we are going to consider is that the BART, random forest, extreme gradient boosting, that are quite standard models in machine learning literatures. Just an information, since we need to predict, of course, we need to train the model, and we will use the split 70-30, which means the 70% is the training set and the 30% is the test set, which could be the called also the out of sample test. Next, please. And okay, here we can skip just to show you that this type of linear model share different type of penalization. Lasso is L1, Ridge L2, and Elastic Net combine these two type of penalization. And next, we can skip here. And also we have the Bayesian, the addictive regression tree, that BART that I mentioned before. This is a flexible approach because we are working on the regularization of the structure, as well as the random forest, which use the trees that are trained by subset of data. And then we have the extreme gradient boosting, where we have a sequential approach in order to train the trees. And next, please. I think this is the most interesting part, and we will try to look to the empirical result of Italy and UK. As you can see, in this case, this table provides you two types of results. The first type is full sample. What does it mean? That we use the full sample, but also we are interested to see the performance of this model in a subsample with much less observation. And as you can observe by the indicator that we are using, that is the classical indicator, that is the mean square error. So the lower the error, the better the performance, the average error square in this case. And as you can see here, the first three models are the linear that I've just described, and then we have the three nonlinear models that are the BART, random forest, XGBoost. The data in this case say that in the in-sample, so the training set, the XGBoost is the best performer, also for the out-of-sample and also for the in-sample. What is the main message here? That nonlinear models perform better than the linear model. So what are the implications? In the implication in our case is that the feature, the characteristic of the buildings could help you to reach a given level of potential energy efficient, but this relationship between the characteristics and the level of potential energy efficient that you can reach is nonlinear. So what does it mean? That in some range they are more effective, while in other range they are less effective. So in this case, the practical implication could be that you could finance some type of intervention, but probably you should focus to specific buildings which share some type of characteristics. Next slide, please. And also with the mean absolute error, thank you very much. And this is the graphical picture to show you that. In this case, we are in the Italian case, and we are using the thermal efficiency. You see that we have on the top panel, the linear, in the bottom panel, the nonlinear models. What is this type of relationship? On the X, we have the thermal efficiency, which is measured in kilowatt square meters. And on the Y-axis, we have the higher level of potential energy efficiency. Why it is interesting? Because if you look to the picture above, you see a linear relationship. Okay, you see this line, which means that for any level, the decrease of potential energy efficiency is linear. The second one, which is the bottom panel, show you that the nonlinearities. So for some range, you see that the improvement is higher, but above some range, you see that after 250 kilowatt hours in square meters, the improvement is almost null. So it's always the same. Next, please. And what I would like to share with you in these few final slides is the feature importance. You see that by considering nonlinear models, we want to detect what are the most important features that could help you to improve your energy efficient by reaching the potential energy efficient that you can have in your building. And for instance, with the BART model, you see that we have all the labels with highlighted in yellow that start with R, R, R. What are R? What are the R's? It means that is a recommendation made by the technicians. So, for instance, flat roof insulation. Why this is important? Because we are finding that in determining the potential energy efficient level that you can reach, there are some type of particular recommendation that could help you to reach this level by controlling for all the other characteristics. So you have some characteristic of your building and you see that they are, for instance, the current environmental impact, if we look to the BART, and this is present for all the models, but there are some feature importance variables that provide you some recommendation in order to reach that level. So the next step is to build a policy based on the recommendation extracted using this type of models. And next slide, please. You can skip this one because it's the same for the UK. Also, in this case, you see this type of non-linearities among the features. And this is the exercise I was talking to you before, and this is the policy design. So here we are considering two types of strategies. The first one is machine learning strategy, so model driven. What does it mean? That we take our best model in the set of machine learning models, which is the XGBoost, and then we adopt an alternative strategies. For instance, we can call a bottom-up approach. So we do not look at any of this type of information. We just look to the EPC class, starting from the bottom classes, for instance, F and G in the Italian case, and we just simply finance the intervention on FG classes. While in our model-driven strategy, we look to the feature importance, as I show you, in order to finance some particular intervention which represent the recommendation by the technicians. Next slide, please. And this is one of the results we have for Italy. As you can see, if we look to machine learning strategy, which is represented by model-driven, you see that the average payback period for this type of policy is 12 years approximately, while for the other type of strategy, that is bottom-up approach, is almost 15 years. So according to this, if we adopt a strategy based on machine learning models, there is a decrease of the average payback period that is above 19%. You see also, if we look to the average of the variation of the energy efficient, you see that the one coming from the model-driven, so machine learning model, is much higher with respect to the benchmark that is the bottom-up approach. Next one, please. And this is the same also for the United Kingdom. In this case, we have the same strategies, and the benchmark is Class G building. Next slide, please. And also here, what you can see is that if we adopt a machine learning strategy, so the so-called model-driven, we have an improvement of the average energy efficiency that is plus 469%. Also, the average of CO2 emission, the variation is much higher when we use the machine learning strategies. And the same is also for the average cost. You see that in this case, it's less expensive to adopt the model-driven because this type of intervention is specifically focused on a type of recommendation that we have in the machine learning models, while with the benchmark is just finance all the type of intervention that you can do for the lowest classes. Next slide, please. So just to conclude with this study, and I hope to be in time, what we have done here is to use energy performance certificate, not just in the context of risk management, but in the context of analysis, of scenario analysis. In this case, what we leverage is on EPC data, but also on the recommendation included in the EPC data. In this case, we were able to learn from the expert, the technician, the type of technical recommendation they provide, plus the usual feature that you have in EPC data. So the current status of your building, the type of consumption that you have. After controlling for all this type of data, we were able to predict the energy improvement. So this is just an example of the type of study that you can do with this type of data, and even with the Engage, since we will have more granular data, and we will have also financial data, the type of research question that you can exploit are much broader. And I hope that I was on time. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Michele. Clearly, very interesting results. But as you can see here, the availability of the EPC data, the Lombardy region has a very detailed database, is the best in Italy. And in the UK, you have the Ministry of Housing. Those are the key elements. So for all the others lenders that could be interested to get familiar with Engage templates and to become a test user, you can really get in contact with us, so we can explain to you how it works, the format of the information that needs to be provided, i.e. in a friendly format, like for example Excel or CSV, the fact that we also do some data quality checks on the data that we receive, and is based on the most advanced industry standards. So those are kind of the benefits of becoming a test user. Here we have summarized the kind of 5 steps. You need to require first the templates. Then if you wish, we can have a call to explain the templates in detail if you have any questions regarding the specific fields. And most importantly, then as Woonnu and Bank, you can start submitting data samples, bigger and larger, to see what is the feedback and to improve, and to check what if you have the information, if you don't have it, and what you can do with it. Clearly, then also will be possible to officially start with the Engage portal towards the end of the year, and most importantly also to get also a report in terms of EU taxonomy compliance. So as I mentioned, 50 institutions have already asked the templates. We expect many more also to do so later in the year, and we also continue anyway to organize events like this one to really hear from the expert, both from let's say the data extraction from a legal perspective and also from an academic perspective in terms of what can be done with the data itself. So in terms of the next, please. In terms of the events, would like to signal you this very important event that is being organized from Hyperport together with and Bank. This is important because it's the first one that also will be entirely carried out in Dutch. So you will be able to ask all the questions, the specific questions in terms of the specificities of the Dutch market and why the template could be clearly is applicable not only in the Netherlands but all across Europe. This is scheduled for next Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Is I guess for about 1 hour or a bit more. But most importantly, also we have other events, the official let's say Engage events in English, and I would really strongly recommend that you also register, because next time we will hear from the European Investment Bank in terms of their green eligibility checker, in terms of the integration with Engage. The green eligibility checker is a tool developed in order to check and make sure that for the buildings, residential buildings, you achieve the 30% improvement in terms of the renovation. So that's a European tool which is actually used by quite a lot of parties. And most importantly, also on the 21st of November with Hyperport, we will launch the portal and you will see what are the specific features and the key features of the portal itself, and what can you and the, let's say the additional benefits of using the portal, where you can have let's say a quite thoroughly interaction by uploading the data, the sample files in a private area. So 24th of October in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Thursday 21st of November, 10 o'clock in the morning. I would like to thank Coin, Martijn, and Michele. Thank you very much for your time and for your expertise. And please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. We are available for you. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.